All right, hello patrons. Want to just thank you guys for kind of joining me in this journey here. So this is the very first masterclass that I've done. I'd love to get your comments on it. Hope that you all find this somewhat valuable. The piece that we're going to do is called Impressions by Julie Davila. It's from the book Impressions on Wood. It's a collection of 10 I would say kind of beginning, intermediate marimba solos for 4 mallets. And nice little book if you're just kind of starting out and, you know, maybe your band director has recommended this book to you. And sometimes these are also on, you know, various auditions or all-state lists. So I think it's a great resource. So we'll kind of dig right in. The first thing I do whenever I'm looking at a piece is actually get all of the music out in front of me. So even though, you know, this book is kind of like folded in the middle, I made a couple of extra copies so that I can see the entire piece. As I'm starting to kind of look through it, you know, I'm looking for technical challenges, spots that seem to be, you know, like they might demand a little bit more attention. With this kind of level piece, you know, beginning, intermediate level repertoire, also sometimes there's some kind of technical device that's used throughout. So in this case, we have the triple lateral stroke at the very beginning. So you want to make sure that you have a good mastery of the triple lateral before you begin learning this piece, or use this piece as a vehicle to work on your triple lateral. So in case you don't know, triple lateral is 3 strokes on one hand. And in this case, I'm starting it on the inside mallet, so you can see the 3 strokes. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And if you do those in succession, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Well, what Julie has decided to do here is actually begin this in the middle of one of the triple laterals. So your strokes are actually 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, right? Start on 2, 3, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. So that kind of presents its own challenge, because the beginning stroke is not the one that is felt on the pulse, and you know, she even has these tenuto markings here on the number 1 mallet, which is kind of the melody line for the opening. So a good idea, you know, just for further study would be to take those triple laterals and practice where you put the accent. So in this case, I'll do it on the first stroke. Then the second stroke. Third stroke. Okay, so if you're familiar with the concept of a grid, which, you know, some drum lines or you know, winter percussion programs might use, the grid is basically just moving the accent through the pattern. So I do exercises like this a lot in my training and with my students. So okay, let's go ahead and dig into the piece a little bit. So you have a good idea of the triple lateral stroke already. The next thing I would do in the opening here is just start to isolate the melody and actually get that into your ear a little bit first, so that as you're playing through it, you're already kind of have this expectation that that's supposed to be the dominant voice. So I would just play with my mallet 1 only, and all the time I'm thinking these 6 tuplets in my head. And then all right, so that kind of gives you an idea. And then, of course, you know, do the same thing with the right hand as it comes into the next phrase. Mallet 4 this time. Okay, and et cetera, et cetera. Now, one thing that's a little problematic with a beginning level piece like this is that there's a lot of repetition. Okay, so I think that it's good to kind of learn how to be good musicians with a piece like this. Anyway, when you're going to have so many repetitions, you kind of heard this phrase happen, 3 times exactly the same. Da, dee, dee, dee. And then it's the same again. And a 3rd time, here's where it finally changes. Okay, so because it's going to repeat so much, never try to play it exactly the same all 3 times. There's kind of different thoughts on this if you're going to do it on an audition versus just trying to make a musical statement. But I think really showing your musicianship is always the most important thing, especially with a marimba solo like this. And there may be other instances where, we want to be a little more strict. But I think, she's given this emotional directive at the beginning, sentimentio, right, or sentimentally. So when I think about that, right, it's kind of a remembrance, right, being sentimental about something, remembering the past. I don't think that playing it very strict and straight is the best way to go when you're trying to reflect on something. So I would kind of treat these always leading towards that last one. So probably start a little bit softer on the first one. A little more this time. Last one. Okay, so something along the lines like that. And that way, you're keeping your listener engaged the entire time. Okay, and then also the same thing on the right-hand passage here. Okay, and you can see I'm kind of a little flexible with the tempo in there. I don't keep it super strict the whole time. For me, it's kind of more of an emotional thing that I'm trying to really connect with the audience on an emotional level, not just as a marimba player on a technical level. So, that's a little more of an advanced idea that you can still bring to this, beginning intermediate level piece. So from there, we'll go ahead and we'll play the whole opening. Okay, so sorry for, 2 or 3 wrong notes in there, but you kind of get the idea. Okay, now we have this largando meaning slow, and it's kind of meant to be, a little middle section, again, a little more emotional here. I think that it's important to get as warm of a stroke as possible here, and also, this is a big concept that I kind of try to push a lot. You can see right at the downbeat of measure 29, there's 4 notes stacked together, right? And if we play 2 double verticals in each hand, and we play all 4 of those notes equally, that's great. And technically, that's accurate. The problem here is that actually the top note is the melody. So here again, I would think about isolating. So that I really get that into my ear first, and then try to voice that out. Okay, and make sure that you can hear that note above all of the rest. And this same kind of idea is going to hold true whenever you are playing more than one note at a time. You should always be thinking, are these notes equal footing, or is the top note dominant or the bottom note dominant, or is mallet 1 dominant or mallet 4 dominant? Okay, and then what do I need to do to achieve that sound? So here you really have that clear melody. Okay, so that's kind of the idea. Now, a cadenza. So a cadenza is meant to be a point where the soloist kind of shows their flair. This isn't really a technical cadenza, right? It's more kind of almost like an aria or something like that, slower for the soloist to really give some emotion to it. So I think it's just nice to really be flexible with the tempo. And always drive the line. Okay, and then we're back. So just a couple quick thoughts in here is like leading up to measure 39, this roll should be struck. Okay, so that you really get that punch. And then when you play this arpeggiation here, I think that it's good to use sticking. There are ways you can do this, right? You could go 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, and then turn. One thing I like to do is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 4, because it gets you a little more into the position for the next chord sooner. So either way is fine. Or right. Either way, make sure that you're leading into measure 41. Don't put a break there. And your sticking should always help you to have as fluid a transition as possible. So here's the whole cadenza then. Okay, and then we're back. And the coda just basically recaps some of the other material. So all the ideas that we talked about earlier will carry through as you do your interpretation of the coda. All right, well, I hope that this has helped you in some way, get you ready to play Impressions by Julie Davila and make a great musical statement. If you have any comments or any further questions, I'd love to hear them. And you can definitely reach out to me on Facebook or also through Patreon. All right, thanks so much, and happy music making.